development of the Kafue, that is Zambia, via Chirundu, and Lions Den in Zimbabwe, railway link to Machipanda, and other emerging railway projects in transport corridors shared between Zambia and Zimbabwe. The railway route estimated to cost US $2.18 billion will enhance railway competitiveness, lower transport and logistics costs, and reduce transit distances to the port of Beira, South African ports, and the port of Dar es Salaam. The two ministers agreed that the involvement of Mozambique in the project was critical for delivering the project as a comprehensive package. Cabinet noted and approved the framework for the establishment of the integrated provincial special economic zones as presented by the Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion. Government seeks to strengthen the existing framework for special economic zones under Zimbabwe Investment Development Authority ZIDA Act, Chapter 14.34, through the creation of a framework for provincial integration and decentralized industrial development in line with the philosophy of, and I quote, leaving no one and no place behind, close quote. The envisaged benefits include inter alia accelerated industrialization and value addition, promoting balanced regional development, enhanced investment attraction, employment creation and skills development, and enhancing Zimbabwe's competitiveness in regional and global markets. The Integrated Provincial Special Economic Zones framework will establish a network of specialized special economic zones distributed across all provinces, starting with village business units and aligned to comparative advantages and structured as complete industrial ecosystems comprising upstream production, midstream processing, downstream manufacturing, logistics, infrastructure, and services. The model will ensure that SEZs will not operate as isolated industrial parks, but as complete production and investment clusters. The Integrated Provincial Special Economic Zones has 6 strategic pillars as follows: provincial comparative advantage, beneficiation and resource-based industrialization, integrated industrial value chains, export-oriented production, public-private partnership development, import substitution, and domestic industrial deepening. The provincial special economic zones will be configured as follows. Harare Metropolitan Province will focus on financial services, ICT, pharmaceuticals, light manufacturing, and business process outsourcing. Bulawayo Metropolitan Province, agro-processing, tourism, renewable energy, and diamond processing. Manicaland Province, agro-processing, tourism, renewable energy, diamond processing. Mashonaland Central Province will focus on mining beneficiation and agro-processing. Mashonaland East Province, lithium processing, agro-industrial development. Mashonaland West Province will focus on agro-processing, fisheries, and agriculture. Midlands Province, steel, iron beneficiation, and logistics hub. Masvingo Province will focus on agro-processing, lithium, and iron beneficiation. Finally, Matabeleland North Province will focus on energy, tourism, and timber processing. Sorry, the last one is Matabeleland South Province, which will focus on logistics, beef and leather, then solar energy. Cross-cutting strategic provincial industrial development includes mineral beneficiation, SEZ, agro-processing, logistics, tourism, and energy-linked special economic zones. The successful implementation of the integrated provincial SEZ model depends on sound governance and institutional framework comprising the National Licensing Authority and in decentralized provincial licensing committees. Cabinet considered and noted the report on Zimbabwe's Ebola preparedness as presented by the Minister of Health and Child Care, Honorable Douglas Mombeshora. The World Health Organization has since 17 May 2026 declared the current Ebola virus disease outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, with extension into Uganda, a public health emergency of international concern. As of 22 May 2026, the Ebola outbreak has recorded 750 cases in the Democratic Republic of Congo and 2 confirmed imported cases in Uganda, becoming active cross-border transmission and sustained regional risk. Uganda's cases have since increased to 5. Zimbabwe's risk is primarily driven by population mobility across regional borders, necessitating strengthened early detection, rapid containment capacity, and revamped border health security measures. The nation is assured that Zimbabwe has an integrated disease surveillance and response system in place, supported by weekly epidemiological reporting and trained surveillance personnel. While Zimbabwe has established preparedness systems under the Public Health Emergency Operations Center and the Integrated Disease Surveillance and Response Framework, the evolving regional Ebola virus disease situation presents an opportunity to further strengthen surveillance, real-time alert systems, and coordination mechanisms to support rapid detection and containment of outbreaks. Cabinet approved the establishment of a provisional Ebola virus disease preparedness contingency fund based on a rapid costed needs assessment covering surveillance, point of entry, preparedness, laboratory strengthening, mobilization of infection prevention, control commodities, and rapid response deployment. Cabinet considered and noted the report on the visit to the Republic of Uganda for the inauguration ceremony of His Excellency President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni held at Kololo Ceremonial Grounds, Kampala on the 12th of May 2026 as presented by the Honorable Vice President Retired General Dr. CGDN Chiwenga. The Vice President extended warm congratulations to President Yoweri Museveni on his re-election and inauguration as President of the United Republic of Uganda on behalf of His Excellency, our President, Comrade E.D. Mnangagwa. The ceremony was held under the theme, and I quote, "Protecting the gains, making a qualitative leap into higher middle income status," close quote. Zimbabwe's Deputy Ambassador to Kenya highlighted that Zimbabwe and Uganda enjoy cordial relations rooted in shared liberation history and cooperation in regional and continental issues. In his inauguration address, President Museveni called on African governments to actively pursue industrialization and local value addition and beneficiation of natural endowments in order to obtain greater value from exports and create wealth for Africans. President Museveni further called for enhanced political and economic integration on the African continent through the formation of regional trading bodies and federations to enhance economic and political cooperation. Cabinet noted and approved a report on the Vice President's visit to the Russian Federation, which was presented by Honorable Vice President Chiwenga. Honorable Vice President Chiwenga led a delegation to the 11th Digitalization of Industrial Russia Conference held from the 18th to the 21st of May 2026 in Nizhny Novgorod at the invitation of the Russian Federation. The purpose of the conference was to map global digital industry roles, accelerate artificial intelligence and industrial automation, strengthen technological sovereignty, and expand global South Russia partnerships in digital infrastructure and human capital development. The conference provided the Vice President an opportunity to articulate Zimbabwe's transformation agenda anchored on industrialization and beneficiation in mining, agriculture, manufacturing, and tourism, and highlighted the National Artificial Intelligence Strategy running from 2026 to 2030. The Honorable Vice President held bilateral engagements with the governor of the Nizhny Novgorod region, Russian business community, and Zimbabwean students based in the Nizhny Novgorod region, and conducted a tour of the Kulibin Special Economic Zone and Axis plant. The outcome of the visit included, among others, upgrading of local special economic zones based on Russian experience, collaborative skills transfer with Russian counterparts in ICT, nuclear science, engineering and industrial technology, mining beneficiation, agro-processing, renewable energy, and advanced manufacturing. Furthermore, engagements with the Zimbabwean mission revealed the need for deployment of additional trade and education attaches to Russia. Cabinet considered and noted the report on the 13th session of the World Urban Forum held in Azerbaijan from the 17th to the 22nd of May 2026. The Republic of Azerbaijan and the United Nations Human Settlements Program, UN Habitat, jointly convened the World Urban Forum running under the theme, and I quote, "Housing the World, Safe and Resilient Cities and Communities," close quote. The visit advanced Zimbabwe's economic diplomacy agenda, strengthened South-to-South cooperation, and positioned the country to leverage emerging partnerships in urban transformation, digital governance, industrialization, skills development, and strategic infrastructure modernization. The event also provided Zimbabwe with an opportunity to benchmark on Azerbaijan's post-conflict reconstruction model, integrated digital public service delivery systems, high-density urban infrastructure, planning, and investment-led industrial modernization. The lessons are directly relevant to Zimbabwe's urban renewal strategy, service delivery reform agenda, and industrial transformation framework. The ministerial meeting on the new urban agenda focused on housing as a driver of social inclusion, economic opportunity, and climate resilience, while emphasizing the need for stronger investment, multi-level governance, and implementation. Delivering Zimbabwe's statement during the leadership summit, Honorable Vice President Chiwenga underscored the global priority being placed on sustainable urban development. He stressed that the government of Zimbabwe considers housing to be a fundamental right for all, reaffirming the country's commitment to sustainable urban development. Deliberations reaffirmed that sustainable housing delivery requires whole-of-government coordination, blended financing mechanisms, public-private partnerships, and climate-resilient infrastructure systems. Azerbaijan expressed the readiness to cooperate in mining technology, agriculture, energy, digital governance, education, defense, and industrial innovation, while extending scholarship opportunities for Zimbabwean students in strategic disciplines. Cabinet noted and approved a report on the Cambridge Africa Education Forum and Cambridge Africa Day and the Education World Forum, which was presented by the Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, Honorable Torerai Moyo. The Minister attended two main sessions, namely the Ministerial Dialogue on Cambridge Education, held under the theme, and I quote, "Partnering for Progress, Delivering the African Union Decade of Education," close quote, and the World Education Forum, held under the theme, and I quote, "Education for a Shared Future, Peace, Planet, Purpose, and Pathways," close quote. The Ministerial Dialogue on Cambridge Education, which was held from the 14th to the 15th of May 2026, focused on strengthening partnerships in support of the provisions as outlined in the African Union Decade of Education and explored approaches to improving learning outcomes and building sustainable education systems across Africa. The outcomes of the Ministerial Dialogue on Cambridge engagement included the following: enhanced international cooperation among African ministers of education, increased momentum for technology-driven education, greater international appreciation of Zimbabwe's education reforms, and renewed emphasis on skills-oriented learning. The Education World Forum 2026 in London from the 18th to the 22nd of May 2026 focused on ending violence in schools and promoting safe learning environments, strengthening foundational learning, education for global citizenship, rethinking assessment systems for future skills in the artificial intelligence era, advancing technical and vocational education and training and scaling educational technology to improve equity, research and teacher development in response to rapid technological change and the growing demand for future-ready skills. Significantly, the Education Forum brought to the fore key imperatives for reform in foundational learning and early childhood development, expansion of technical and vocational education and training, and industry partnerships, and the need for accelerated assessment reforms for future skills development. Cabinet considered and noted the reports of the 79th World Health Assembly as presented by the Minister of Health and Child Care, Honorable Douglas Mombeshora. The 79th World Health Assembly was convened under the theme, and I quote, "Reshaping Global Health, a Shared Responsibility," close quote. The assembly took place following the withdrawal of the United Nations of America from the World Health Organization and its non-participation at the World Health Assembly 79th session. Member States therefore underscored the importance of reducing reliance on external financing through increased national budget allocations, ring-fenced health, relaxed taxes and levies, and establishment of sustainable mechanisms such as national health insurance or a national health care program. Zimbabwe's participation at World Health Assembly 79th session was successful and strategically significant in advancing national priorities, strengthening partnerships, and contributing to global health governance reforms. The Assembly reinforced the centrality of resilient health systems anchored on sustainable domestic financing, reduced dependence on external assistance, and strengthened national ownership of health priorities. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister, for presenting today's Cabinet highlights. We now move to the first round of questions. Over to you, colleagues. First round of questions. Yes.
Thank you, Chief Secretary. My name is Latu Nyang from ZN Prime. My first question goes to Minister Masuka. Considering all these improvements in terms of food security, I would want to know how government will ensure that these improvements, looking at the mechanisms for sustainability. Then the other question goes to Minister of Health. What are the mechanisms that the government has put in place to deal with the travelers, especially considering the state of preparedness by the country? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Chief Secretary. The first question is directed to the Minister of Agriculture from Latwell Nyango, Honourable Minister Masuka.
And I thank the questioner for the question. You recall that for 23 consecutive years, Zimbabwe was regarded as one of those countries on the list of hunger spots until 2024, when Zimbabwe was removed from that list of hunger spots, and in 1 year climbed 46 places up to number 90 of the assessed 136 countries, which is indeed commendable progress. And the question is how that sustained progress be maintained, the sustainability aspect. Certainly from a policy and regulatory approach, we have entrenched this consistency and predictability in terms of policy within the agriculture, food systems and rural transformation strategy, so that there is clarity and role delineation of the various actors in the value chain, so that they know what to do when and with whom. Secondly, the interventions that we've undertaken to climate-proof agriculture through climate-smart interventions have meant that these achievements can only be sustained into the future. In fact, we can see more of these. As an example, we have introduced the sustainable intensive conservation agriculture model from Mvudza Intwasa, and we've seen yields increase progressively at households, especially in years where we have lower than normal rainfall. We've also seen that this complemented by agroecological tailoring of crops, which means traditional grains in the drier regions and maize in the higher rainfall regions. This has enabled household food security and ensuring that a surplus can also be delivered to the strategic grain reserve, to the Grain Marketing Board. So sustainable intensive conservation, agroecological tailoring is a sustainable model. So therefore, we expect the benefits to accrue well and into the future. And at a national level, we have seen an increase in the area under irrigation, arising not just from the 10,600 dams that exist, but government is constructing 12 major dams across the country to add to the available capacity. This, we've seen an increase from 171,000 hectares developed in 2017 to 258,873 hectares in 2026. So this 66% increase in the area under irrigation is indeed notable. This is just under 90,000 hectares. Just imagine if you were to put a summer crop and get 5 tons per hectare. That will give you 450,000 metric tons of cereals. And if you were to do a winter crop, this will give you another 450,000 metric tons of cereals. So the area developed between 2017 and now is capable of giving you upwards of 1 million metric tons additional. So this is irreversible investment, and we can expect this to continue as we target the 496,000 hectares under irrigation by 2030, and many other interventions that government collaboratively with the private sector is undertaking will ensure that these gains are sustained now and into the future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We move to the second question from Latwell Nyangu, directed to the Minister of Health. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairman. And let me also thank for the question. Ebola is a disease of very high concern to us as Zimbabwe, even if we have not had any patients so far in Zimbabwe. But our proximity to the DRC and the related movements of personnel through the borders, DRC, Zambia, Zimbabwe, DRC, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, and also Angola, and all these countries being in SADC, there's a very high risk that there may be travelers who may get to Zimbabwe. But I want to assure you, at the moment, we have not had a case in Zimbabwe, and all measures that we are taking to protect our citizens are only preventive measures. We have activated our center, the Public Health Emergency Operating Center, which is at Parenyatwa, to train people and make awareness campaigns to the public, especially to let the public know the signs and symptoms of the disease. We have also made aware of our trained staff at all port health entry points, both by air and by road, to make sure that they are aware and start screening people as they cross the borders. The main screening that we do is to deal with temperature. This is it's part of the disease. It's called hemorrhagic fever. It causes high temperature, starting with flu-like illness, general weaknesses, and proceeding to severe symptoms, abdominal pains, vomiting, and usually bleeding. Bleeding from various orifices, from the nose, from even the eyes, the mouth, from the gums, and internal bleeding through the gut, and may end up passing blood stool. So we want to make sure that all our people are aware of these symptoms and the fever, which can be detected through our scanners at the border posts. These have already been activated. We are also making sure that our laboratory systems are in place to be able to test for the virus. Usually, when there's an outbreak, regions are divided into several regions. We are part of the southern region, and each region will have one center dedicated to deal with epidemics. And we are in a region where South African lab, which is a reference lab, is the lab that we normally use. CDC Africa will assist with transportation of specimens to that lab and also payment for the testing at that lab. But we as a country, we've got the capacity and trained staff and the equipment to also test for those viruses. And currently, we have applied to CDC Africa for supply of the reagents so that we are able also to test should we have any suspicious cases in Zimbabwe, and then the tests will be done here. We have requested for the reagents to test for the Ebola virus, but we have also requested for reagents to test for the hantavirus. As you know, we have got some contact cases whom we are monitoring. All these, together with strengthening of our health systems, will help us enable us to deal with cases should they arise. I should say that CDC Africa has agreed to give us the reagents which we use for laboratory testing so that we are fully prepared for any eventuality. I think at the moment that's what we have done. We are also going to be engaging the community, including our traditional leaders, so that they are also aware and will help us in mobilizing communities during awareness programs. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ministers, for responding to those questions. We move to the second and final round of questions. Yes.
My name is Pavel Myltsev. I'm from Russian news agency TASS. My question is as follows. Do the ongoing tensions and war in Persian Gulf have any repercussions on availability and prices of fuel and fertilizers for Zimbabwe, as we have seen in some other African countries? Thank you.
Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Pevin Fombe from Star FM. My question is directed to Professor Ntuli Nubi. What measures is the government is put in place so that there is timely implementation of these special economic zones? I think.
The last question. Over to you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chief Secretary. The first question, I think both, the question from our colleague from Russia with regards to disturbances in the Persian Gulf affecting supply of fuel and fertilizers will be that one will be directed to the Minister of Finance together with the one on special economic zones. Two questions, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that question. Yes, indeed, the war in the Middle East has affected us like every other country around the world in the two areas of the availability of supply and also the pricing. But I must say that on the first one, the availability of supply, we have put in place certain structures that have ensured that we have fuel flowing into Zimbabwe without much disturbance. So the issue really is on the second part, on the issue of pricing, where we have seen an increase in fuel prices, starting with the FOB price, and then other subsequent margins are beyond that. But again, we've taken measures to cushion our citizens from this increase in prices. These measures brought around, removing or indeed reducing some of the taxes, some of the levies that we have imposed on fuel. And this has gone a long way in ameliorating this increase in prices. In fact, as I speak, we have resolved to continue with the current price level while we monitor things. We've been watching that the FOB price has been dropping, which is good, in line with the fall in the global Brent price below $100. So that's promising. It means that if this continues, then it will even allow us to drop these prices further. On fertilizer, again, we have a similar situation where we're in terms of supply, we've been able to put structures to make sure that supply is available. But of course, the prices have ticked up by as much as 30%. There again, we are trying to negotiate hard to make sure that this increase is not felt fully by our farmers, and make sure that again we can mitigate against this, this increase. So on both counts, I think we've fared quite well as Zimbabwe, but of course we did not entirely escape the impact of the war on these two fronts. Coming to the issue of special economic zones, thank you for that question. Really, what we agreed today as government through cabinet action is that we need an integrated special economic zone approach that is allow us to decentralize the development of these special economic zones, so they are made better. They are turned into better tools of local economic development at the provincial, district levels. So in terms of readiness to act, we are ready to act. We already have remember we've got the devolution funds, disbursement and project processing mechanisms in place. So we have that decentralized structure already in place. So in terms of implementation, we can move fairly fast. But of course, for special economic zones, we have proposed the notion of special committees at provincial level. Again, we have the structures for coordinating that. That's not too difficult. So in terms of speed, we are going to move with speed. Already on the standalone economic zones, which have been largely private sector driven, we are already making progress. For example, here in Harare, special economic zones around the BPOs, those have already been declared. Special economic zone in Beitbridge around the Tuli Coal Ferrochrome project. Again, we've made progress. That's already a special economic zone. And then in Manize around the steel company, that also been accorded special economic zone. So we've already started, action on that. So there's no difficulty in us going forward. But we're also aware that for us to be successful, in cases where it is government driving the special economic zone as opposed to the private sector, then we have to invest in some infrastructure, be it roads, water availability, electricity, and so forth. That we're going to be doing. That might take a little bit of time, but in terms of speed of implementation, that implementation is starting immediately and in earnest. Thank you.
Let me thank members of the Fourth Estate for the questions, and also like to thank the Honorable Ministers for responding to those questions. We have come to the end of today's post-cabinet press briefing.
That was the post-cabinet media briefing that was taking place at the Monomotapa building, where we saw the Minister of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services, Honorable Jemu Soda, highlight that Cabinet revealed that GMB got grain stock of over 500,000, with the Midlands Province accounting for 70% of that. He also revealed that GMB will introduce in-transit grain storage, and a total of over 2 million maize was also harvested, with Mashonaland West topping the list. Cabinet highlighted that food stock is looking positive in terms of food security in the country. Cabinet also highlighted that tobacco has a value increase of 62.3% and noted a framework of economic zones under ZEDA Act Chapter 14, following the mantra by His Excellency President Emmerson Mnangagwa, leaving no one and no place behind. Cabinet also noted the country's Ebola preparedness system as presented by the Minister of Health and Childcare, Honorable Douglas Mombeshora. This he also did bring forward that a fund has already been put in place for this. And Cabinet also did note and approve the Cambridge Africa Forum as presented by the Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, Honorable Torerai Moyo. And of course, that brings us to the end of today's session, but we will be meeting again next week. I'm Tanaka Mandofa, and from myself and the team behind the scenes, we do wish you a pleasant day.
It's not a new term,
yeah,
but a continuation of progress. So, Zimbabwe, let us build our Zimbabwe.
Forward again,
Hatizokere shure 7 years strong to the Kulaka future.
forward again.
See politics tishande, not a new